ready to start the meeting. I just wanted to thank y'all for joining us tonight. Miss Ann Carmichael with Leela is going to be giving you guys a presentation on FAFSA and financial aid. At the end, we're going to have a question and answer session. Also, those of you who are on, if you're on an iPhone, could you just like in the chat box, really everybody put in, that you're here, just if you put your name,
Okay.
that way we'll know. And like I said, any questions, Miss Ann will be available at the end. So she'll give you her presentation and then we'll discuss after. Miss Ann, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's different to be here in the virtual world this year. But as Ms. Spotno mentioned, my name is Ann Carmichael, and my job is to make sure that each of you have the resources that you need to complete your FAFSA. And then if you have questions about the student financial aid process, I want you to feel free to ask this evening or contact me personally. Now, as Ms. Spotno probably has told you already, the Louisiana Department of Education asks that the class of 2021 submit the FAFSA as a requirement for graduation. And this simply ensures that your money for college is ready and waiting for you when you're ready to begin. Now, we all know that college can be expensive, so it's time to start thinking about those expenses and preparing for them. And those costs do include your equipment, books and supplies like textbooks, notebooks, a computer if you need one, your personal expenses like your phone bill, money to do your laundry if you're living away from home, fuel for your car to get back and forth to campus, and any food purchases outside of your meal plan. Room and board, which could include your dorm or an apartment if you're living off campus. And then that might include electricity, water and gas, your groceries and cleaning supplies. And then your tuition and fees. And those fees will include parking, library, technology, and athletic fees. And when you're doing your research on the colleges that you're interested in, you're going to find that a lot of the websites will list tuition only. But it's important to note that there are other fees and expenses included. But the good news is that financial aid is available from the U.S. Department of Education, the state of Louisiana, your college or career school, and nonprofit and private organizations such as Leela. Every year, the federal government provides more than $120 billion in student financial aid, and we just want to make sure that you receive your portion. The types of federal student aid include the federal Pell Grant, the federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, the Teacher Educational Assistance for College and Higher Education Grant, the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, federal work study, and direct subsidized, unsubsidized, and plus loans. Now, federal student aid grants are a form of financial aid that does not have to be repaid. So you always want to accept any grants that you're offered. They include the Pell Grant for undergraduates with financial need, FSEOGs for undergraduates with exceptional financial need, service grants for students of military parents who died defending the country following 9/11, and teach grants for students pursuing a teaching career. The Federal Work Study Program provides part-time jobs to help pay for your college expenses. And we encourage all students to say yes on the FAFSA to the the Federal Work Study Program. Hold on, because I'm still admitting people. Now, these jobs look great on your first professional resume, so we hope that you'll consider them. because by doing so, you are going to be in contact with the financial aid office at the college that you're planning to attend, and they will know to offer you any jobs they have available on campus. Any monies that you receive through the Federal Work Study Program will be paid directly to the student and used to pay for your miscellaneous college expenses. Now, nobody wants to accept student loans, but if you are offered them and you do need them to complete your college career, they are a good investment. But there are different types. So you want to make sure you understand the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The subsidized loans are based on financial need, and no interest is charged until you graduate or cease to attend. On the other hand, the unsubsidized loans are for everyone, um, but the interest on this loan does begin to accrue once it's fully dispersed, which is usually in the spring semester. So as you can see, there is a big difference between the direct subsidized and unsubsidized loan, and you always want to accept the subsidized portion first. And you can remember this when you receive your financial aid offer by telling yourself that the U in unsubsidized means that you always pay the interest on this type of loan. If you are offered loans, you do want to accept the federal student loans first because payments aren't due until you graduate or cease to attend. The interest rate is fixed at a lower rate and no credit check is required. This type of loan is in the student's name, whereas the private loans you should consider carefully because most require payments be made while you're still in school. The interest rate could be variable and it's often much higher and may almost always require a cosigner, which means you are going to a parent or another adult asking them to become part of your loan and help you pay it back if you can't do so. So, to dispel the myth, almost everyone is eligible for some type of federal student aid. Now, all federal student aid and most institutional and private aid is contingent upon completion of the free application for federal student aid. This form launched on October 1st and it does so every year. Now, student financial aid is awarded on a first come, first served basis. So make sure you're getting your FAFSA submitted as soon as possible. Because we've been told that over 1 million FAFSAs have already been submitted for next academic year. Get to the head of the line while the money is still available so you will be offered the maximum award that you're eligible to receive. And remember to pay close attention to your deadlines. Your colleges will have priority financial aid deadlines. Your state, the state of Louisiana, through the TOPS scholarship, has a FAFSA completion deadline. And yes, the FAFSA can serve as the TOPS application if you've met all of the other requirements. There is a federal student aid deadline, and your school district might have a deadline for you. So check with Mrs. Fontenot about that. You'll want to begin the FAFSA process by collecting all of the documents that you're going to need to complete the form. And by doing this, your FAFSA should take no longer than 30 minutes. Some people say it took them about 20 minutes to complete the form. And these documents include the student and parents' social security cards, the student and parents' 2019 federal income tax returns, if they file one, your W-2s, because there's information on this form that might not be printed on your tax return, and then bank statements and records of investments, because you're going to be asked to report the balances of these accounts as of the date you submit the FAFSA. Now you'll begin by creating the Federal Student Aid ID. It's called the FSA ID, and it allows the student and his parent to identify themselves electronically when accessing the FAFSA. It consists of a username and a password that you are going to create yourself, and you should only use your own personal information. Now, as I mentioned, each student and one of his parents should create an FSA ID. The web address is listed here. It's fsaid.ed.gov. And remember, students, if you do not already have a personal email address, now is the time to create one. You don't want to use your school address when creating your FSA ID, because once you graduate, your email address there at the school will be disabled and federal student aid won't have any way of getting in contact with you. Now, only use your personal mobile phone number and don't share one with a parent who's creating an ID, because that's going to give you some trouble signing your FAFSA. Your FAFSA is your FSA ID is your official electronic signature, and it's legally binding. So you want to make sure you're recording it and keeping it in a very safe place, because you're going to need it every year that you're in college. If you don't have access to a computer when you're ready to start on your FAFSA, download the FAFSA mobile app. It's called My Student Aid, and you can use it to submit your FAFSA on your mobile phone or any other mobile device that has internet access. Or if you prefer, you can use the web-based version at fafsa.gov. Now, what if the student likes to use the app and mom and dad prefer the web-based version? That's fine, because when it's time to sign, all the information will be integrated into one form and you can electronically sign and submit your FAFSA. The high school class of 2021 should be completing the 2021-2022 FAFSA. And you'll do that by logging into the FAFSA with the student's FSA ID, because the FAFSA is the student's application for federal student aid. The parent ID is going to be used later in the form to transfer your tax information from the IRS into the FAFSA, and then again to sign the student's FAFSA. And as I mentioned, you want to begin the 21-22 FAFSA because that's the year that you're applying for financial aid. Now, if you are graduating early, maybe in December, or you want to begin college this summer, you may have to complete both forms. But for your graduation requirement, for those starting college in the fall, you need to complete the 21-22 FAFSA. Once you are in the form, you'll see that there are 8 sections that need to be completed before submitting. Those include the student demographics, where the student will be asked to provide his social security number, name, date of birth, personal email address, home address, residency status, and gender. The school selection, where the student will report the name of his high school, any colleges that he wants his FAFSA data to be sent to, and his housing plans on those campuses. Next is the dependency status section, where the student will be asked to consider a list of 10 questions to determine whether he is a dependent or an independent student for FAFSA purposes. And I'll go over those 10 questions in just a minute. You'll be asked to report the number of dependents living in the student's household and his parents' education. Now, often parents will ask why they're being asked to report their level of education. But that is because there could be additional student financial aid available for first-generation college students. So make sure you are answering that question accurately. Next, you'll move to the parent demographics section, where parents will report their social security numbers, their marital status, their email addresses. And then you are moving on to the student and parent financial section. And this is where the students and parents will report their working wages from 2019, any federal benefits they've received, and the balances of their savings and investment accounts. Then it's time to sign and submit the FAFSA, and once you do, you'll receive confirmation. Now, as you move through the FAFSA, if you need clarification on a question, look over to the right-hand side and you'll see a question mark. You can always click on the question mark for a more detailed description of what they're asking for. There are hyperlinks provided for more complicated terms or for financial aid terms that you might not already be familiar with. You can request a FAFSA online chat, call Federal Student Aid, or you can contact me at Leela's FAFSA Helpline. But for this session, I'm going to cover only the most commonly asked FAFSA questions. Now, if something I say prompts a question and I don't address it, please use that chat box below to ask your questions, and we'll go over them at the end of the presentation. I'm also going to provide you with my email address and our FAFSA helpline if you want to work with me individually. One of the questions we're often asked is about citizenship. A student must be a citizen or an eligible non-citizen to complete a FAFSA. Now, we all know what a citizen is, but if you're not quite sure if you could be an eligible non-citizen, this is one of the hyperlinks. Just click there for a detailed description. Now, if a student is a citizen or a eligible non-citizen, they can submit a FAFSA, but what if their parents are not? That's fine. You will just enter zeros anywhere a parent's social security number is asked for. Young men between the ages of 18 and 26 must be registered with Selective Service to receive federal student aid. Now, if you aren't already registered, you can do so within the FAFSA. What if you're not 18 yet? You can click yes, register me. And once you turn 18, you will be automatically registered. So if you choose to do this, please answer yes and register me within the FAFSA itself. Only the colleges that you list on your FAFSA are going to consider you for student financial aid. So add all of the schools that you're considering, even if you haven't completed your admissions applications at those schools, because they'll hold on to your FAFSA information. And once you're registered, once you've been accepted for admissions, they will begin working on a financial aid offer for you. If you're planning to apply to more than 10 colleges, you can do so. There are instructions on this page, or you can contact me and I will help you with that. Now the 10 questions that are going to be asked of you to determine whether you are dependent on your parents or independent of your parents for FAFSA purposes. Now, if you can answer yes to just one of these questions, then you will not be asked to provide parental information. And remember, they're asking these questions of the student. Will you be 24 or older by January 1st of the school year for which you're applying for financial aid? Are you married or separated but not divorced? Will you be working toward a master's or doctorate degree? Do you have children who receive more than half of their support from you? Do you have dependents other than children or a spouse who live with you and receive more than half of their support from you? Are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training? So those of you who are going on to the military, boot camp and basic training is considered training. So you would not be able to answer yes to this question, and you would still be considered a dependent student. Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? At any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents deceased? Were you in foster care, or were you a ward or a dependent of the court? Are you an emancipated minor, Or are you in legal guardianship as determined by a court? And it's important to note that legal custody is not always considered legal guardianship. So make sure you have your legal documentation with you when you answer this question. And if you have concerns about your situation, give me a call and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Are you an unaccompanied youth who is homeless? Or are you self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? Now, as I mentioned, if you can answer yes to just one of these questions and provide a legal document supporting your claim, then you're considered an independent student for FAFSA purposes, and you will not be asked to provide parental information. But for FAFSA purposes, say you live on your own and you file your own taxes, but you cannot answer yes to one of the prior 10 questions, you still are considered dependent and need mom and dad's information. And the number one question we're asked is, which parent or parents do I report on the FAFSA? Now, the rule of thumb is that the parent or parents that you've lived with the longest in the past 12 months should be listed on your FAFSA. So if you live with both of your biological parents, then that's easy. You just want to list both of them. But if the parent you lived with the longest in the past 12 months is either separated, divorced, or was never married, you should list only that biological parent on your FAFSA. Now, if that parent is remarried, then you must include that step parent as well. In other words, federal student aid wants to know the financial standing of the household that the student has lived in the longest in the 12 months prior to the date that the FAFSA was submitted. Now, if you are identified as a dependent student, but your parents refuse to provide their information on your FAFSA, you can submit a FAFSA stating that you're unable to provide their information. However, you want to contact the college's financial aid office to discuss your situation, because if you submit a FAFSA without parental information, you're only going to be considered for student loans. You won't be offered any grant money. However, if you work with the financial aid office and you have a special situation, they can consider you for additional financial support. Now, when you're in the financial sections of the FAFSA, make it easy on yourself and use the Internal Revenue Service's data retrieval tool, because this is going to make sure that your information is accurate. It's going to make the process go a lot quicker and diminish the student's chances of being selected for verification. So the financial aid office is not going to take your word for it if you manually enter your tax information and income information. They're going to ask you to go to the IRS, request a tax transcript, and send it to them. So if you're applying to 4, 6, 12 schools, that means 12 times you're going to have to send a tax transcript over. So please try to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This is where your tax return comes in, and it's important to have it in front of you when you get to the IRS site, because the IRS wants to know that the person in their site is the person that filed that return. So with the tax return in front of you, list your name exactly as it's printed on the return. And we've had situations where the tax preparer misspelled the taxpayer's name. It has to be exactly as it's spelled when you get into this site. Say you've moved since you filed the return. The IRS is not concerned with that. They want to know your address printed on that return and exactly as it's printed. Now, to use the IRS data retrieval tool, this is where your FSA ID comes into play. If you're having trouble connecting and transferring your information, please contact Federal Student Aid or give us a call on our helpline, and we'll be happy to work with you directly. Once you complete the financial section, you are ready to sign and submit your FAFSA. But I am telling you that it's important that you need to review your student aid report before you submit. The student aid report is a list of every question you were asked on the FAFSA and your answer to each one of them. Now this makes sure that the financial aid office gets accurate data, because before you submit, if you find an error on this report, you can go back into the form and correct it. That way, the financial aid office can process your federal student aid quickly. The student and one of his parents should use their FSA IDs to sign the FAFSA. Now, if you submit your FAFSA without signatures, it's going to be marked incomplete. And then you'll have to go back in and you will have to log back into your FAFSA and sign and submit again. So be sure that you are getting those signatures in there. Once you do submit, you'll automatically receive a pop-up and it will be the FAFSA confirmation page. Now, although the student will be sent an email from Federal Student Aid telling him that his FAFSA was submitted, this is the only place you're going to get this much information. You'll see that there's a confirmation page, a confirmation number with the date and time you submitted. There's a data release number that allows you to ask the financial aid office to make corrections for you. You'll have instructions on the next steps you need to take to complete the financial aid process. You'll see the colleges that you had your FAFSA data sent to, and you will be able to review your student financial aid estimates. And I'm going to stress the word estimate because everybody gets excited when they see the dollar amounts. But remember that the financial aid offices themselves are the ones that will contact you with your financial aid offer. Federal Student Aid just suggests these dollar amounts to them. Now, if you begin your FAFSA and you have to stop and save it and come back later to complete, remember that you have 45 days. You might find on that 46th day, if you decide to go back in and finish up, that your FAFSA will be wiped clean and you'll be starting over. So make sure that you're getting this done timely. Now, what if you submit your FAFSA, but you want to make some changes to it? Perhaps you want to add a school, or you want to change your contact information, or maybe the college asks you to make some changes to your FAFSA. There are a variety of ways to do that, but the quickest way to change your FAFSA is go back to FAFSA.gov, log in with the student's ID, make those changes, and then sign and submit again. Once your FAFSA is fully processed, at that time it's shared with the colleges listed. Then each financial aid office will begin to identify any aid that you might be eligible to receive. Now, if your family's financial situation has changed since 2019, and we are going to see this all over the country, but especially in Louisiana, and I actually had a call with the U.S. Department of Education this afternoon, and they were inquiring about Louisiana's FAFSA completion numbers. And they know that there have been some hurricanes that have torn through here and have really affected people's situations. So if you find yourself in this situation, don't be shy about it. Perhaps one parent or both parents have lost jobs. There could be some increased unexpected medical expenses that you've had to pay. Contact your financial aid office because that's what they're there for. And they might be able to offer you additional student financial aid to help you complete your academic year. Because they are using your information to determine your net price, which is what you're responsible for paying yourself. They are going to take the cost of their attendance on their campus, subtract any grants and scholarships that they can offer you, and that's how you will know what you need to come up with either in cash or by accepting student loans to pay that balance. You will receive your financial aid offer from each school that you're applying to. As I mentioned, some of them are waiting for you to finish your admissions applications before they make that offer, but each college will provide you with an offer, and it will be line itemed. You will see their cost of attendance. They will line item every scholarship, every grant, every student loan that they can offer you, so that you know exactly what you need to pay out of pocket for your education at their school. And once you make your final decision, you want to accept your financial aid in this order. Scholarships and grants first, because this is gift aid that doesn't have to be repaid. Next is federal work study. You've earned this money and you don't have to pay it back. And then your last resort will be loans, because this is borrowed money that you must repay with interest. Now, I know this is a lot of information to absorb, so we did publish again this year a FAFSA completion guide, and it's free for all Louisiana high school seniors. So if you haven't already received your copy, you can email me and I'll provide you with a copy of the guide. And I will also include Leela's senior checklist, and this will just help you stay on track and be ready for college in the fall. Now, I wouldn't want to finish and end the presentation without talking to you just for 1 minute about scholarships. And I know Mrs. Fontenot has already done this, and I know she has lists of scholarships that you could apply for. But there are scholarships everywhere. Your colleges offer them, your parents' employers, nonprofit, community organizations, religious groups, and social groups. Some are merit-based, which means they would be based on your academic achievement or some special talent that you have, and others are based on financial need. A scholarship might cover the entire cost of your tuition, or it might be a one-time award. But either way, applying for and winning these scholarships is going to reduce the cost of your education. And that means it's going to reduce the balance of your student loans. So make sure you are looking high and low for these scholarships. Talk to your counselor. Contact the financial aid office at the colleges you're applying to. Ask your admissions recruiter about scholarships they know of at their school. This year, Leela is offering a $1,000 scholarship for Louisiana students who complete the FAFSA. And then once you're in college, we offer a $1,000 Choose Louisiana scholarship if you stay in the state of Louisiana. So you can find out all of the details and grab the applications on our website at leela.org. Now, if you are attending a pricier college and you have exhausted all your opportunities for grants, scholarships, federal and state money, and you still need money to pay for your academic year, Leela does administer a nonprofit education loan program. And you can find out about that at leelachoice.org. Now is the time for your questions, and hopefully I'll have the answers. But if I don't, I'll find somebody who does. So I'm going to check on that chat box in just a second, but I wanted to put up our FAFSA helpline if you want to jot down this number, and there's my email address for you as well. Oh, good. I see some people have entered their names. in the chat box so that Mrs. Botno knows who attended tonight? Oh, somebody said they couldn't see the slide about if a parent will not provide their information on your FAFSA. If you find yourself in that situation and your parents won't cooperate and provide their info, you go ahead and submit your FAFSA saying I'm unable to provide, but contact the financial aid office. Because if you don't do that, then they're not going to consider you for the free money. Is it still required if I plan to go to a community college? Yes, community colleges will want you to complete your FAFSA before you apply there. And that's a good point because sometimes a Pell Grant can pay for your entire community college year. So make sure you're getting your FAFSA done. Let's see, what do we enter, yes or no, for the current assets as of today? What does that mean? Well, that's a good question. You're going to be asked the balance of your cash, what cash you have on hand, the balance of your checking and your savings account. You can go and grab that information if you bank online. Go ahead and tally up that number and you'll put it in that space. They'll also ask you if you have any investments like a 401k, mom and dad, or any investment or retirement accounts. They'll ask you for those balances as well. Will the FAFSA still be eligible if we transfer from a community college to a university? Yes, the FAFSA is the application for colleges and community colleges all over the country. So no matter where you're going, the FAFSA will be your application for federal student aid. Now, if you started at a community college the first semester and you transfer the very next semester, so within that one academic year, if you're switching colleges, you're going to have to go in and add that new college to your FAFSA. But if you do find yourself, that's kind of rare, but if you find yourself in that situation, just give me a call. I'll be happy to help you do that. What if I don't plan to go to college after I graduate? Well, that's your choice, of course, but we always encourage students to go ahead and submit their FAFSAs because if you decide mid-year that you want to go, your money will be ready and waiting for you at that school. So all you have to do is apply and then you will be able to receive a financial aid offer. Is there a certain amount that is given for SLCC junior college versus a university? For like their cost of attendance, there will be quite a bit different. Let me see if I can, is there a certain amount that is given? What's going to happen, Matt, those estimates that you receive on the confirmation page, maybe that's what you're talking about, they will let you know the maximum amount that they're going to advise the financial aid office to offer you. That will be the maximum amount, whether it's at a community college or whether it is at a four-year college. But you'll receive your offers individually. Now, we've seen students who have maybe applied to a four-year private college and received a full ride. And then some students are going to a community college and they still have to pay some out of pocket. So just make sure that you are applying to several schools, several types of schools, and that way you can lay out all your financial aid offers and make a good decision on what's best for you. Has anybody already completed the FAFSA? Or has anybody received a scholarship they want to tell us about? There's this question. Is there a cutoff amount for a certain amount of hours? Say I don't complete in 2 years. Federal student aid, as long as you're working towards your undergraduate degree, they will continue to offer you federal student aid. There is a limit on how much Pell Grant you can receive, whether you complete your college career in 2 years or it takes you 6 years. There is a limit, and there also are student loan limits. And speaking of that, you do have to maintain satisfactory academic progress to continue to receive financial aid. So make sure when you get to college, you're giving it your best try and keeping up your grades. Oh, somebody has applied for the Horatio Alger Scholarship, and that's great. Good for you, because I know that takes some effort. Okay, so I only have one school in her selection. Should I hurry and submit since it is on a first come, first served basis, or wait to enter other schools? She's not sure yet where she wants to go. If I were you, I would want to get your FAFSA done as soon as possible. So if you kind of can think about, even if you're adding 10 schools on her FAFSA, go ahead and add all of those schools and get your FAFSA submitted with every school. Now later, if she does decide that she wants to select another school, you can log back in and add that school. But yes, I would do it as soon as possible, and I would add as many schools as she can, as she's really considering. Okay, so here's somebody who says they have not completed their FAFSA. How early can I apply before I graduate high school? You can apply for your FAFSA monies now, and it really is best to get your admissions applications submitted as well, way before you graduate. This is prime time to get all of those applications done. Anybody else? I sure hope that everyone will get their FAFSA done and apply for Leela's $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarships. I want to see somebody from New Iberia Senior High win this year. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Mrs. Spotno for some closing remarks.
I see one more question, Miss Ann.
Oh, if we do the FAFSA online, do we still have to do a paper copy for school?
No, I get a list of everybody who's completed the FAFSA. The State Department sends us a list.
Great. Anybody else before we finish up? A copy of this presentation is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, and it's called Ask Leela. And I'm going to also send it over to Mrs. Spotner to share with those who couldn't attend tonight. You guys had some great questions. Sometimes it's just like crickets in here waiting for somebody to have a comment, but you did a great job. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, here's one for you.
Here's another question.
What is a good ACT score? Now, the FAFSA is not going to take into consideration what your achievement test scores are. So don't worry about that as far as applying for student financial aid. Now, you'll need your good ACT scores to apply for your admissions requirements. But I would say a great ACT score is 36, which I never got close to, but
pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be the best.
Yeah.
Have you all taken the ACT this year?
We took it on October 6th.
Oh,
I mean, we gave it.
Oh, that's great.
And the scores are trickling in. It's taking a while.
Yeah. All right then.
All right, Miss Ann, thank you so much. And guys, if y'all have any questions, y'all can email Miss Ann, and you can email me. If I don't know the answer, I'll check with Miss Ann or somebody else. But make sure you're applying to the colleges now. It's never too early when we start your senior year, and get that FAFSA done. That's just, at the end, I think, Miss Ann, when they finish the FAFSA, don't they have like a confirmation page
Yes.
you can print? Guys, if you can print it and bring it to me, or you can email it to me, the confirmation page. That way I'll know you have it done. But I do get that list, but you know, if you said you did it and your name's not on that list, then there's a problem. We need to figure out what happened.
So federal student aid is going to send you an email, students, and you can just forward that on to Mrs. Fontenot.
So what did she say about if our income is different this year? Of course, COVID.
Yeah.
What do we have to do?
Go ahead and submit the FAFSA. It's just a generic form, so you have to use what's printed on your 2019 return. Submit it with that info, and then contact each financial aid office. They'll probably ask you for some supporting documentation, like your last couple of paychecks, just to show them that you do have a decrease in wages. They might ask you if it's because of medical expenses. They might ask for copies of those medical bills, but they'll work with you.
And the only other question I have is, you go for direct subsidized loans first before
Yes, ma'am.
unsubsidized loans?
That's right, because if a student is in college for 4 years and you have accepted subsidized loans, that's 4 years of interest you're not paying. So definitely accept that first.
Okay.
The deadline for the FAFSA is, I mean, for us, you have to have it done before graduation, to receive monies, you know, to see what your financial aid package is. I would say you need to do it as soon as possible, because once you get that report and that the school, then you can go to the school you're planning to attend, meet with a financial aid officer, and they'll tell you, they can give you more information about, you know, what it's going to cost you.
That's right, because you do not want to wait until the week before school, because then all your classes are going to be put on hold. If you still didn't get your financial aid processed, they can drop your classes. So why not go ahead and get it done? Your money's waiting for you. And then once they tell you how much you owe, then they take it out of that financial aid. Okay, what were all of the documents needed? You need the student and parent social security cards, your 2019 income tax returns, your W-2s, your FSA IDs that you're going to create that we spoke about. I'm going back up to make sure I didn't list anything, didn't forget anything. Your who else can help me remember?
Bank
Your
statements.
That's right.
Good job,
That's
Ms.
right.
Ginger.
Miss Ginger.
Now, you saying all these documents, do we have to upload these
You
or
do
send
not.
these somewhere?
No, you do not. They're just the documents that you're going to need to refer to when you're completing it.
Gotcha.
We have another question, Miss Ann.
What if my college is already paid for under my father, like by the Army? And that is a great question, because the financial aid office is not going to know that your dad was in the military. But they usually, almost every college has an Office of Veteran Affairs. So it's your responsibility to either tell the financial aid office you think you might be eligible for some money through the armed forces, or look up their Office of Veteran Affairs, and that's who's going to help you with that money. Miss Anderson. Y'all are doing a great job. Anybody else? And you know I'm here to answer after tonight. You know you always think of something the next day. I'll sleep on it. Sometimes I think of questions while I'm sleeping. Oh, thanks, Kaylee.
I want to thank everybody for attending. And again, if y'all have any questions, check with Miss Ann, or you can email me or call. Like I said, I can help as much as I can help. And I'll go to the expert. I have done the FAFSA, so I know pretty much. Because once you do it, then you just do it every year.
Yes. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and it was great to meet you all, and good luck.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
You're welcome.
Miss Stephanie, yes, you can get financial aid. There's a like a top off. They won't pay you extra, but they'll pay whatever their cost of attendance is. So like, remember that slide where it said $9,500? If that's their cost of attendance, you can't get more than that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all. Thank y'all for showing up, and let's finish our 2021 school year very strong. Hope to see y'all. May 20th is our graduation. I don't know if y'all knew. That's our end goal. So y'all have a good evening.
Good
And
night.
I'll see y'all soon. Good night.
Good
Thank y'all
night.
for coming. Bye-bye.